right. So, what inspired you to pursue a career in technology?
Um, I started learning to code actually just 1 month before turning 27, so I started pretty late. I'm 33 now. And before that, I've been doing other stuff. I studied when I was younger, and I studied business economics. And then after university, I actually played online poker for a few years. You could actually do that. I wouldn't recommend anyone to do it these days anymore, but you could actually make money with this. And I did this for a few years. But then I get um, really bored by it because it was like you just clicked buttons all day, every day for 8 to 10 hours per day, and nothing else was super boring. And then I was trying to find something new because it was also declining. It was getting less and less profitable with each month. And I tried to find some work that I would enjoy. So I really sat down and tried to think about something that I could do every day for many hours every day without hating my life. And I really thought about this for a while, for a few days, and I remembered that I enjoyed coding as a kid. So when I was 12 or 13, I experimented with coding. I didn't follow through, bless you, by the
Thank
way. I didn't follow through, unfortunately. But then later in school, when I was around 16 or 17, we had some procuring classes again, and it immediately was easy to me and I enjoyed it. But again, I didn't follow through because I was much more focused on other stuff like how to be cool in school, and how to, I don't know, how to waste my time with smoking and drinking alcohol and this kind of stuff. And I didn't follow through with this hobby of programming. But then at 1 month before turning 27, I sat down and I decided to teach myself coding again. And since then, I've been really following through with that and teaching myself coding. And I also started my YouTube channel like 3 months after I started learning to code. And I started making small tutorials about the stuff I learned. And yeah, and I've been doing this ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can see the YouTube banner behind you. Yeah, that's good. So,
Ah,
how
yeah.
did you start coding all by your own?
I think the very first like tutorial I tried was how was it called again? Code Academy, but you can only use this for the absolute basics, like how to write your first couple of Java functions. But you can't, at least back then, they didn't really teach you how to build a real app. And then I quickly switched to Android development because this seemed the most interesting to me at this time. And from there, I just watched some official tutorials by Google. They had some free Android tutorials on udacity.com and YouTube, and then reading documentation. But there's so much content out there, it shouldn't be difficult to get started with coding. You basically just have to pick one beginner tutorial in a topic that interests you and follow along. And after that, I would just recommend trying to build stuff and learn everything else along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And what language do you recommend people should get started learning with?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I started with Android and Java back then, but I wouldn't start again with Java these days because it's such an old language.
Yeah.
And I would say pick a topic that interests you. Like, are you more into building web apps, or are you more into or do you really want to build a mobile app? Or do you want to build something like something AI related or statistics related, which would maybe make Python or language like that more interesting? If you want to build web apps, then learn JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. If you want to build mobile apps, then it's either Kotlin on Android or Swift, I guess, on iOS. And there are job opportunities for all of them, except for maybe some very niche languages. But for the popular languages, just pick the one that seems most interesting at the time to you. And you can still switch later because there's a lot of overlap between different platforms. These languages are very similar. So
Mm,
it's not like you can make this decision only one time and then you have to stick with it. You can just switch later, I would say.
yeah, definitely, definitely. What are your thoughts in Flutter? I know you mentioned Swift a couple of times and Android development.
Yeah, I think Flutter can be a good idea. I haven't tried it out myself. I don't know how it is performance-wise. I've seen some complaints about that. But on the other hand, Flutter is pretty popular. I don't know if Flutter is better than React Native or if React Native would be a better choice for cross-platform stuff. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with starting with that and trying it out.
Gotcha, gotcha. What are kind of some really cool projects that kind of you were proud about building them when you were like learning coding and stuff?
You mean the stuff that I built back then?
Yeah,
I try to come up with little app ideas that I myself would find interesting because then you have the most motivation to actually build it,
yeah,
to
definitely.
actually follow through with it. Back then, I built some little productivity apps for Android because I was really into this stuff. And I also was into gamification. So I tried to build gamified productivity apps like a Pomodoro timer that, um, it's hard to explain, a Pomodoro timer that uh, has a random number generator that unlocks a reward for you that you can set yourself. It's not so important what exactly it did, but I would say build an app that's actually interesting to you that would maybe help yourself because then you have really a motivation to actually finish it, and not just start
Yeah,
it and abandon it shortly after.
yeah, definitely. Right. Now that's like ChatGPT is all around, and how can kind of people take advantage of it in computer science? And do you recommend people like using it in computer science?
I don't know how I don't know if a beginner should use it, but I'm really a great fan of GitHub Copilot for VS Code. I think it's
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. It makes coding so much more fun. But I don't know if it's a good idea for a beginner because they should write more code themselves, right? And not just
Yeah.
let Copilot's autocomplete handle it. I absolutely love it, but maybe you should wait like 3 months or so before you install it and just first write a code by yourself. And I also have ChatGPT Plus, where you pay $20 a month to get the newest ChatGPT version for at this time.
Mm.
And this is also very useful because you can ask it pretty much any question and it can come up with, for example, you asked me about app ideas, you can ask ChatGPT for app ideas and it will come up with any. It can even give you instructions how to get started. But in my opinion, ChatGPT 4 is much better than 3.5. 3.5 is the version you get when you don't pay. That's the free version
Yeah.
on ChatGPT. But the paid version for $20 a month is really much better in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you can ask it
That's
any question and it's super cool.
yeah. That's kind of like a really good marketing strategy for them too, for OpenAI to like just give everybody like a free version, just
Right,
give them like a taste and then have like the superpower behind the bars, you have to pay for them.
right.
So how do
And by
you
the way, one more thing, there's also a ChatGPT API, so you can also build cool app ideas where ChatGPT is a feature in the app. So this is something that's worth exploring.
yeah, definitely. For people who don't know like what API is, can you explain it to them?
Okay,
Simple
it's
term.
basically a server in this case by ChatGPT, where you can send some. So when you have ChatGPT on the internet, you write into the chat box and you ask a question and you get an answer back. When you use the API, which is basically how programmers can connect their apps to ChatGPT, then
Mm,
you send your question there from inside your app, so to speak, and you get the answer back, but in a format that you can then use in your app. So you can build an app that also has ChatGPT features inside it, for example.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so an API is basically like a server from someone else, usually that you can send a request to and you get some response with data back.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So, how do you stay updated with the latest trends and developments in the kind of tech industry?
I would say mostly through Twitter. Twitter is a good updates feed, in my opinion. I don't have any newsletters that I follow because I usually already know all the stuff from Twitter.
Mm,
Every day I go through my Twitter feed for like 10 minutes and then I feel like I'm pretty much up to date with the important stuff.
mm.
And
And
and all the really important stuff will get to you eventually. You
yeah,
know,
definitely, yeah,
you don't have to search for it.
yeah. So you don't have like a specific kind of like website of like newsletter or something like that.
No,
That
I've tried them out. Yeah, yeah. I tried them out, but I usually everything I see on there, I already saw on Twitter before.
gotcha. So do you have any advice that you want to give out to someone who's considering studying computer science or pursuing like a career in technology?
Yeah, I did not study computer science. I studied business economics.
Mm,
Um, Usually if I could go back in time, I would probably study computer science back in my days. But I don't know if it's still a good idea at the moment because AI is progressing so fast. I'm really not sure at the moment if it's such a good idea to spend a few years in university. I would probably, I don't really know because some companies require you to have a computer science degree. I mean, I always prefer the self-employed route anyway, so it doesn't really apply to me. I
yeah,
don't work in a company, but even if you want to work in a company, it's a difficult time at the moment because AI is progressing so fast.
yeah.
And in university, they learn really old stuff.
Got
Like they often don't even use IDEs. They write like code on
yeah,
paper and all this
yeah.
theory. And I don't know how relevant it will be in 3 years. So I would these days, I personally, I wouldn't go to university. I
Mm,
would do exactly the same like I'm doing right now. I would try to build a self-employment around coding. But if you want to end up in a company, especially in a bigger one, then maybe you still need a degree. So maybe
But
you still have to study.
yeah, but I can see like a lot of companies like right now, for example, Microsoft for software engineers, they don't really require any degree for now. It's just like kind of so you get an interview, you have to make sure that you pass the test that they give you. And then
Yeah.
if you like 100% pass everything, you'll get the job.
So
And
they don't require a computer science degree?
no, they don't. Yeah.
Okay, then I would probably
One-
not get one.
Yeah, definitely. So explain, what do you do right now? Are you like
One more thing I want to add to this last part, sorry.
you can,
If you don't get a computer science degree, I would make sure to like get your name out there in the industry. And most
mm,
programmers do this by writing blog posts. So I think this is a good replacement for a degree because you can't just be some random guy that no one knows. You have to be known for your skills.
yeah,
So a good way to do this is to just write blog posts about the stuff you learn or YouTube videos, for example, but most people are more comfortable with writing. And a blog like this, of course, it won't work immediately. It will take probably months or years, but it's a good way to get known in the industry, to put your name out there, and also to make other companies find you through your blog, for example. So there
yeah,
can be good opportunities can come out of something like this.
yeah,
So
definitely.
definitely don't, if you don't study computer science, don't just do nothing, but create content in some form of another or
Mm,
another.
mm. So how would you say like people can really scale up their content on the computer science and tech niche?
Um, do you mean how they can create more of
You
it?
kind of like go more viral on them, like on
Hmm.
the tech and computer science niche.
Uh, I don't know how they can scale that, especially in a blog. Um, it takes time and until a blog really gets traction. I would say just create the best content you can and put a lot of effort into it. That's much more important
Yeah,
because your blog doesn't need like thousands of visitors each month. You
yeah,
only need the important people to find you. And maybe you solved a problem, a niche problem that no one on the internet has solved before or not written about. You write a blog post about this little niche problem that you solved, and maybe recruiter from a company or some CEO finds this blog post because they have been searching about this problem, or maybe a developer of one of these companies. They find you, they ask you for advice, and then whatever happens afterwards, maybe they even want to hire you. So it's not really that important that your content goes viral. Just write about some cool and special problems that you have solved while doing your coding. And don't expect every blog post to take off. Most of them probably won't. But to get nice opportunities, you really only need one or a few blog
Yeah,
posts that hit, you know.
yeah, definitely. And would you say it would be a good idea for them to write it in LinkedIn or Twitter, or is it Instagram, Facebook? Where would you say it would be like the best kind of platform to use for that blog post?
Yeah, for blogging, the best is definitely your own website. So
Mm,
if you are a web developer, you can write it with your favorite tech stack. And if you are not, then just use WordPress, but not WordPress.com, but WordPress.org, which is the quote unquote real WordPress that you can install in your own web hosting. And it's free. And it's a really easy way to set up a blog, but you want to have something on your own domain, you know.
yeah,
Unfortunately, with YouTube videos, it's not really possible because you rely on YouTube to host your videos and to show them to people. But for written text, I definitely would put it on my own website, and I also have my own website for that. And
mm,
you can still write like smaller posts, or you can cross-post your blog posts on LinkedIn, for example, or write smaller tweets on Twitter. But I would always have my own website
yeah,
as the priority.
definitely. Can you drop a link for your website in the comments just so I can link it in the description in case some people want to kind of take a look at it?
Yeah, so my URL is codinginflow.com. So my channel is called Coding in Flow, so FLOW, and codinginflow.com is one word, Coding in Flow. And yeah, under slash blog, there are my blog posts.
That's
Yeah.
all. Yeah, that's awesome. So, are you
I
working
can
right?
also put it in the chat maybe if you
Yeah,
need it later.
yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Got it. So right now, are you working as a software engineer or are you just kind of having your self income and doing so kind of side hustles, as they would say?
Yeah, I know I'm self-employed completely around my channel. And in the past, I've always done freelancing, you know.
Mm,
Um, I'm more of a self-directed guy. I enjoy being self-employed much more than working in a company. I think it's just that depends on your personality, which one you prefer. I always preferred doing my own thing. And since I don't need freelance gigs anymore,
yeah,
I focus mostly on YouTube these days and everything around it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you do all of the editing and everything?
Editing my videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still do this myself because
Yes.
I can't really see myself outsourcing editing my large tutorials because
Yeah,
I don't have enough trust for that. That's the problem. But my YouTube shorts that I make, they are now edited by someone else.
yeah, definitely. So let me ask you this. How did you kind of like I know you said like you like to be self-employed and all of that stuff, but then how did you find kind of like that moment? Like were you working at like a different job on the old days and then decided that you just want to like focus on yourself and working like by yourself and stuff?
Yeah, so when I did po online poker before, this was also a kind of self-employment, right? Because I
Yeah.
wasn't employed for someone.
Mm,
I just did it from home. And I had enough savings back then that I didn't need a job when I started learning to code. So I basically started my self-employment from day one. Or yeah, as I said, a few months after I started learning to code, I created my YouTube channel, and I've been doing it in a self-employed form from day one, even when I didn't make any money yet, because I had enough savings from my ventures before
mm,
to yeah, to be able to do that full time, basically. And then I try to increase my income over time.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are kind of some exciting opportunities that you see in the kind of field of technology, kind of particularly just AI becoming like a really good overall like worker and just exponentially growing? So, do you have any kind of exciting opportunities for that?
Yeah, as you already said, uh, I would, if I want to create a company, I would try to build something with AI around it probably. And I also have a side project that I'm working on, which is called smartdiary.co. It's like a journaling app that I'm building on the side with AI integration. So with chat, so you write your diary entries,
Mm,
and you have your own ChatGPT assistant basically that knows about your diary entries, and it allows for some cool stuff. You can ask it like, what did, or if you try to remember a certain date, you can ask when did XYZ happen. And if you wrote about it in your diary earlier, then the
mm,
chatbot knows where to find it and on what date this was. It's a cool little side project, and I
mm.
would recommend that you, if you want to build a product, that you try to find an idea where you can integrate AI, because it has opened so many new opportunities that it's really there are a ton of ideas that you can build right now with AI. And I think it's the most promising technology right now. Um, yeah, I, d
Yeah,
I don't know much about blockchain or these topics,
yeah,
so I've not looked into this. But I would say try to build something with AI, and the ChatGPT API is an easy way to do this.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And do you think that AI will replace kind of like software engineers in the future?
That's a good question. I think everyone who says yes or no has doesn't. No one knows the answer at the moment. That's the problem. Some people say yes, some people say no, but the truth is everyone she just makes it up. They don't know, and I don't know. But definitely not right now. At the moment, we are not there yet. If it grows exponentially, maybe we get there soon. On the other hand, I don't even know if a language model, if this technology of large language models can even create the kind of creative intelligence that we need to really do programming and write new apps. I don't know if this is even possible with the current technology. I think eventually, one day in the future, AI can replace programmers because intelligence is nothing magical.
Mm,
Your brain is basically just a computer made out of meat, and there must be a way to build this in an even better form
mm,
with like metal and electricity. But I don't know if we will get there in the next few years or if it will take much longer, because it's not easy to figure out how to build something like a brain artificially, you know.
yeah,
So I would not say that someone should not learn coding right now just because of this. Just go ahead and learn coding, and then we have to wait and see what happens. At the moment, it's pretty nice. At the moment, tools like GitHub Copilot make coding so much more fun. It's really this sweet spot at the moment where there's enough creativity and coding left for us, but it takes care of the tedious parts and the boilerplate code. And this makes it a lot of fun. And I just hope that it goes on like this for a few more years. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, can you kind of discuss more about like the importance of networking, especially in the computer science like world, and how can people even kind of start networking with others? Because there are like a lot of introverts, extroverts, different type of peoples around. So how can they do that?
I don't put any effort into networking at all. I think it's a better strategy to, as I said before, create a blog or a YouTube channel or something like this, because then people will get to know your name and they will know who you are. And I think that's a more efficient approach than going out into the world and trying to make friends with people at events or whatever people consider networking. I don't know. And other than that, I would say follow people on Twitter. And but I think if you create something like a blog and you are consistent with that, then this will your network will naturally arise out of that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah. And how do you kind of find some project ideas for coding that basically ChatGPT won't be able to think about? Like not a basic project, but like a really big and expensive project.
You mean how you can come up with ideas for that?
Yeah. Kind of like similar like the app project that you're working on right now.
Yeah,
Like a big and advanced idea that
yeah.
ChatGPT won't like be able to give you like a really big and advanced idea.
Mm, I always try to think about something that I personally would like to use, and an AI journaling app was something I would like to use.
Mm.
And I'm also really interested in gamification and topics like that. So I've had some ideas about this before, but people, I don't know, people uh, seem to really have trouble coming up with something they would use themselves. But if you just want to practice coding, then you can also just clone an existing app, or maybe take an existing app that you use yourself and try to rebuild it in a slightly better way, or try to put AI into it to make it more interesting. But yeah, I always try to build something that I want to use myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you have any kind of tools that you use that will help you like code more like kind of efficiently?
Yeah, definitely GitHub Copilot. It's amazing. It saves so much time. Other than that, I use two monitors. I think a second one is really useful because you can put something you can put one IDE on one screen or the documentation on one screen and the
Yeah.
code on the other side. That's really cool. I also have a video speed player extension for Chrome where you can speed up videos online, which is
Yeah.
actually pretty useful
I use that
because yeah,
every day. Yeah, definitely.
because some videos, I mean, you can also set the speed on YouTube itself in the player, but it's more convenient with the extension because you can use shortcuts. And I press one button and it speeds up the video, and this is often
Yeah.
useful in tutorials where maybe the instructor is talking too slowly for
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
Yeah, but other than that, try to think of anything else I'm using. Not really.
Mm. And also
Not
like
really.
for the video speed, like if you ever go to a funnel, like a page funnel, like a webinar, most of them are not actually live, but then you'll see that button where
Yeah,
you can speed it up. Was that actually
right.
like waiting? Yeah, that was it
And
called.
it even works for advertisement. This is cool. Uh,
Yeah,
for example, YouTube advertisement or any other page, you can speed up the ad, the video ad. And
yeah,
the video extension that I'm using can speed up to 16x.
yeah,
So when
yeah,
there's an ad I don't want to see, I just run it on 16x until it's over. And this
yeah,
works. It's pretty
yeah.
cool.
I think we were using the same one, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm using Chrome, but I don't know. I think it's called Video Speed Controller.
Yeah,
Very generic name.
yeah, it's like red with double. It almost looks like the YouTube, but it has like the double triangles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Exactly right.
yeah. Do you have any books that you recommend for people to kind of read for computer science?
Um,
Or even business books if you want.
yeah, in terms of business, I'm reading a lot of stuff. Um, just trying to look at the bookshelf. I think the only coding book I've read is Clean Code, but I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone because it's such a pain to read because there's so much that it's all unformatted code without any colors in the book. And sometimes it's several pages of blocks of code, and it's not fun to read at all. I would rather take online resources where you have a real or read code on GitHub, for example, where you can jump around between different functions and classes.
Yeah.
But reading clean code by Uncle Bob was not very fun. Other than that, Lean Startup is a pretty popular book, but I don't know. I think reading books, I mean, I enjoy reading books, but it's probably, you can probably learn most of the stuff just from YouTube videos or podcasts. So I wouldn't, there are not really any books that I can recommend so much that someone would have to read them. You can find most of the information on YouTube in shorter form.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah. So I think that kind of like wraps up like the whole podcast. Yeah, it was awesome